Good morning, everyone. This is Sarah with Harrisburg Project, and today we're going to go over Fund F, Orphanage Claims in iStar for regular term. That we have gone over all claims. We've gone over Fund E, but the Fund F are going to be orphans that are in a private facility. So they too will be due for regular term on June 14th. So that's kind of why, or I guess the method to my madness as far as picking the order of the trainings that we offer. So again, we're looking at June 14th for this one as well. So it goes hand in hand with those Fund E kids that you have. Today, if you have questions throughout the session, please ask them in the questions pod. I will address them as I'm going through the session. If I don't get to something immediately, it means that we're probably going to address that further into the presentation. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm just waiting till we get to the relevant time period. Also, I uploaded your handout for today. So if you were not able to get a hold of that previous, you can get that from the handouts pod, also in your GoToWebinar menu. If you cannot see your GoToWebinar menu, you're looking for an orange arrow, click on that. It will open up that flyout and you will see the options that I'm referencing. So we have a fairly large group today and I don't have a lot logged in yet. So I'm just gonna kind of give it just a minute maybe. I don't want to punish everyone, but we had over 80 today and I don't have anywhere close to that in yet. So this session is not as long as some of the other ones that we've done. So it's not near as complicated as costing out orphans that are Fund E. So they're a little bit more difficult if you have to do the program method. Fund F kids are calendar only, and someone is going to tell you the cost per day for these kids. So it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. It's also 100% reimbursed. So you want to make sure that you're identifying these kids and that you have them entered properly. So, and yes, this is regular term we're talking about today. Summer term orphanage is not due until November. I think it's going to fall on the 1st this year. So November 1st is when summer term orphanage is due. So Fund D, E, and F summer term, again, not due until November. We're talking about regular term Fund F records today. So they're private facility orphanage students. So those approvals for summer are also due November 1st. Okay, we will go ahead and get started. So today we're going to talk about the pickup dates for this. So I've already told you June 14th. You're probably getting tired of hearing that date, but that's when our due date's going to be. We'll go through that. We'll talk about the youth and care tab. Some private facility approval tips. Just want to make sure, of course, that you're putting in the correct school that you're being billed for. So things like that you need to look for. We'll show you how to actually do the claim by using the calendar method of computing days. Then we'll look at the reports, and then if you need support at the end, of course, we will provide you with our information so you can reach out to us when you need help. So I think my slides are out of order. Let me see here. Sure, they surely are. All right, so I'll go back to the other two. So let's skip over to the due date for this. So it's going to be June 14th for Fund F. You can work on corrections this year on the approvals through July 1st, and you can work on claim corrections for regular term orphanage until July 31st. So what does June 14th mean? It means after June 14th for regular term, you cannot add any more Fund F records. It's actually D, E, and F is that due date, okay? But today we're talking about F. You need to make sure that you have created your approval records and that they are entered into iStar by June 14th. That's the due date. After that, if you have errors on the approval, you have through July 1st to remedy those. And if you still don't have your claim data entered on the claims record, then you have through July 31st to do that. So you cannot add anything D, E, or F after the 14th, but you can make edits again through these 2 days for approvals and claims. Now, someone asked earlier, just so you know, summer term, November 1st this year, okay? So now, sorry about that. How do you identify these kids? So how do you find your orphanage students that we're talking about? Hopefully you already know about this, but I still want to talk about it in every session just in case we catch somebody who doesn't know about the possible youth and care tab. So this is under your approvals and claims. If you go to student and approvals, typically you land on this reported tab. That's where you're used to working. Next door, you're going to see unreported. Then you're going to see possible youth and care. Just make sure that, you know, every 2 weeks, maybe once a month, you go in and you look at this tab, look at those kids, and make sure that you don't have any special ed students in this listing that need to be coded as an E or an F. So what we would be looking for in reference to today is, if you look in this list of youth and care students, first of all, you need to determine if they already have a record in iStar. And if they do, what you would be looking for in reference to Fund F would be any Fund B students in this column. So this is the last column of the grid. So you're going to look to see, are there any Fund B kids there? If there are, then you need to change them to an F, as in Frank. If you change them to an F and you get eligibility errors, then you need to take that SysID and email us at Harrisburg Project. Email that to support and ask us to check the eligibility for that student. We will then look at that student on the DCFS file and see, are they actually eligible? Should they be eligible? Do they have a name discrepancy, a date of birth discrepancy? Can we find that child on the file and prove that they are actually an orphan? And if they are, and we can find that, then we will have ISB do an override so you can claim the record. So my point to this is, if you change an existing fund code to an orphanage fund code and you get eligibility errors, don't immediately change it back to the previous code. Check with us first. So we're at the end of the school year. If you have things in these columns, such as an A that, you know, or a B that you might think needs to be an F, if you've already checked with us throughout the year on this and we said they're not eligible, there's no reason to recheck. Okay, so just evaluate that list. The other thing you're going to see in here is that it gives you all students that are suspected of being orphans in your district. So there could be regular ed kids there. If there are, ignore them. But if you see special ed kids in this list and they don't have a fund code, that means they're not an iStar at all yet. So you need to get an approval record in for them and code them again, either as an E or an F, depending on whether they are public or private kids. Okay? All right. Hopefully we'll be back on track with my agenda here. All right, so the instructions for claims is going to be on our website. It's going to be down at the bottom here. Students with disabilities claims and reimbursement instructions. These were updated this year in March of 24. No significant changes. So these instructions have not changed in years. They are always the same. I don't anticipate these to change. So at this point, even if you're brand new, it's a good thing because you're going to be able to have a lot of resources of people who have been doing this for a long time. Same process. But if you want to see the instructions, where we get our air checking, how the rules are created in iStar, that's where you're going to look. Okay. You typically don't need a lot of guidance with the Fund F claim because it's super easy. As long as you have the proper facility in for the student, you're going to be able to find what you need to make the claim. So literally, you could call in here and be a little bit rusty on what to do, and we can help you complete this claim entirely. Where sometimes if you're doing a program, we need you to gather information and provide it to us. So there are some unknowns for us there. This is all known if the rate has been set, and we're able to help you. So if you want that assistance, please call in. We'll be happy to help you do a couple of these, show you what to do, and then you can carry on with the rest, whatever you're comfortable with. So how do you find these students that have Fund F approvals if they're already in iStar? So you're going to be under approvals and claims, student and approvals. So when you're looking for these approval records, then you can just filter on Fund F and hit search. That will show you all the students you currently have in iStar for the 23-24 school year that are coded as Fund F. So what do you do with that? Well, first of all, you need to see if there are any students that are missing. That would be the first thing. You want to get those kids entered. You want to put them in so you can get a chance at a claim on them, okay? The next thing you, of course, would want to look at is, are there any errors that you can resolve on those approval records? Maybe not yet, maybe later. Remember, you have until July 1st to remedy those errors. Okay, so this is how you would find the approvals. And again, you cannot add any approvals after June 14th, but you can make corrections on the approvals through July 1st this year. Okay, this is what the Fund F approval looks like. You can see that, you know, pretty normal up here at the top. You're kind of used to selecting a fund code, percent special ed, resident district, resident school. It gets a little different right here. These kids are at a private day school, a therapeutic day school typically, okay? So you're going to be picking that facility from this drop down. And what you need to make sure is that, of course, you select tuition type. That's what we're referring to today, is the tuition claim only, okay? And then you should see the approved begin and end date for the facility. This is going to show you regular and summer both, okay? And you should have a rate. Now, when I made this early on, we didn't have a lot of rates, but you should see the daily rate when you look at a record. I will tell you, there are a handful of dollar rates still sticking around. I know it is very aggravating. So we will be waiting until at least the first week or so of June before the next Purchase Care Review Board meeting. So nothing's going to happen between now and then. All right. ISB already made the updates from the May meeting. So the May meeting was on May 7th. I haven't looked at the June meeting, but it should be that first week or so of June when they have that meeting, maybe the second week, depending on how the dates fall. So I don't know the exact date, but if you have a dollar rate for a facility right now, we're just going to have to sit tight and hope that it gets approved in June. All right, I have a question. It's a good one. If the student with fund code B will be graduating from their outplaced school, does the fund code still need to be changed to F? So if you think they were an F all year, then it needs to be changed. We're only going to be able to claim for anyone that started March 2nd or after. So if you if you have a code B student that has a begin date March 2nd or after, and it's supposed to be an F, then you need to make that change, because the claims for this year, it doesn't matter if they graduate this year or not. We're going to make the claim for the time that they were there in the 23-24 school year. But unfortunately, again, if it wasn't changed, if the record starts before May 2nd, that had to be changed by May 1st. So that's why I'm kind of stipulating between those 2 dates. So, but if I'm not understanding your question and you need to call in, just feel free to do that. Maybe I'm not understanding your question fully. So, okay. So the rest of this record looks pretty similar to what you're used to: disabilities related services, EE code. Then you're going to get down to having to put in a residence type, a placing agent, and a guardian type. So you do that for both sets of orphans, whether they're public or private. So this record does look a little bit different than a Fund A record, say. Okay, it's going to have some different options. Some things are the same, some things are different. Now, if you're working on the approval and you want to go ahead and put some claim data in, you can do that by selecting the calendar for the private facility, and it will go ahead and put in the days for you. So you can do that from the approval record, but this screen on the right-hand side is a mirror image of the claim. So what you do here will reflect on the claim and vice versa. So if you are not ready to do this when you're working on approvals, you're not required to. Okay, it just depends on the flow of data entry for you. A lot of you may have your approvals completed by now, and you may not be spending any time on this screen. Okay, so if not, then you may want to start on the claims tab immediately, not first on approvals. All right, so the calendars are in ISTAR well, they're not in ISTAR. They go into a calendar application through IWAS at ISB, but all private facilities have to submit a calendar now. So we're able to tap into that, pull them into ISTAR, and it will calculate the days for you. So you will automatically default to calendar method. You cannot change it. There's no other way that they want the data to come in, and that will fill in your days enrolled in days in session. So no more are the days of having to look at a calendar and count how many days they were at a facility. ISTAR will do it for you. So it's just like working with public calendars now too. So it's the same operation. So Believe me, we went a couple years without those. It's a wonderful feature to have. Okay, so we've looked at how you get to your approvals. How do you get to your claims? Okay, I'll get to your question in just a second. How do you get to the claims? So you're going to go this time to approvals and claims, student and claims. And under that, you're going to, again, filter by fund code. You're looking for your Fund F records. Again, if you don't see a student populate here when you hit search, then something's wrong. We need to get an approval record added for that student. So you're going to either evaluate from approvals or evaluate from claims. They should match. If you have an approval, it creates a claim. So if you don't have a claim, then we're missing a student. We need to get that student added. Okay. So your claim record, we remember our claim term regular. We are talking about the tuition claim, not the residential claim. So we do have residential claims in iStar. Those run on a different timeline. They're reimbursed on a different timeline. So it's a totally separate subject. Okay. Summer term claims are not going to be due until November 1st. So what we're focusing on today, right now, is just the regular term claim. So what you will do on the claim record is select the calendar for the private facility. It will enter in the days. And then to get the cost per pupil, you will take the daily rate that you are charged. So you can look on the approval record to see what that rate is, and you will multiply it by the number of days enrolled. So the daily rate, so let's say that to go to Markland Day School, it's $200 a day for tuition. You would take $200 times 180 days, and you would enter the total in the cost per pupil. We want the total for the entire time that the student attended in this school year. So if they went 180 of 180 days, we would want the max. If they went 80 days of 180, then we would take 80 times 200. When you multiply the days times the rate, and you look at your calculator, drop the cents. Do not round up. We have to truncate these numbers, otherwise you will get an error in iStar. So even if it's $1 too high, it will generate an error and it will disapprove the claim record for you. So truncate is something you rarely hear in math. We're all accustomed to rounding, but for this claim, for Fund F and for B, you have to drop the cents. So anything after the decimal, you just drop off and truncate the amount. Okay. On this record, because this student has a related service of 25 on their approval record, for Fund F only, you're also able to claim the transportation costs. For Fund B, you cannot do that. For orphanage, you can claim it. So if you have related service of 25, you will see the trans cost field on your claim record. It's 100% if you had the special transportation and provided it. Okay. Okay, if you want to look at the private facility calendar, if you have questions, it is available either on our website, on the private facility search, or you can get to this from iStar if you click on the details on the approval. So either way, and what you're looking for is under calendar information, you'll be looking to click on this blue electronic calendar link, and it will show you the calendar for the private facility that is on file, and that is what the days will be calculating from in iStar. So again, it's all automatic since it's calendar method, you can't change it. So again, if you have questions, that's what you need to look at. Make sure that your records have the correct term. So for orphanage, Fund D, E, and F, you cannot select the term of both on the approval record. We have to have an approval record for regular term and a separate approval record for summer term. So if they are going to go to summer term, which will be due November 1st, it's a completely separate approval record. So the claim is also separate. They don't come in together. So we have to have separate, or an approval record and a claim for regular term, and then an approval record and a claim for summer term. So they are separate. So your terms for these are going to be regular and summer. You're never going to have a both. So what do you need to do? You need to remember those summer records. Make sure you get them added. You have plenty of time, but sometimes we get so busy over the summer, that's something we might forget, okay? And as far as us reminding you and helping you, we can only remind you to do claims for records that exist. We don't know about students that are not marked as summer and entered into iStar. So we have the unknown that we, really can't help you with. So again, make sure that you don't forget those kids. Make sure that you're looking at your invoices for your private facilities and that you're checking the rate you're being charged against the rate that's in iStar. If they differ, then you need to make sure that you are putting in the correct private facility code. Some of these private facilities, in fact, many of these private facilities will have multiple codes. Those codes represent different dollar amounts for the rates. So you want to make sure that your rate matches. Then make sure throughout the school year that if these kids have jumped around to different facilities, that you are following along in iStar with that and doing your end ads. So we want to make sure that if they were at a particular facility for part of the year and then maybe they needed an aid the rest of the year and got a different rate, we want to make sure that you are making those changes so that we can make sure that partial year we're claiming a certain rate and the rest of the year we're claiming the new rate. So keep that in mind, that just because they're at the same facility, excuse me, doesn't mean that they might be in a different program within that facility. So watch those changes as well. If you have an F Fund code student marked both, will we get an error message? It should not be an option. It should not even allow you to select both for Fund F. Okay, reports. So for your error reports, of course, we will start sending these to you as we approach the deadline. But if you want to run your error report, you can do that and go under your application reports. It's under student and errors. You want student claim errors by resident district and serving school. If you want to limit it to fund codes, you're welcome to do that, or you can just run it as is. So the filter, you could filter on Fund F and just run your Fund F errors. Okay, if you just want to see errors, you also can filter and say fatal, so you won't see the warnings. So several different options on how you can run those, but remember, we will start sending emails to you on records that have errors probably maybe even next week. I know we talked about it in our meeting this week, so probably next week we'll start doing that, okay? And then of course, as we get close, a few days out, we're going to start calling you if you still have errors and see if we can help you. So as far as once you have completed the claim, your report is going to be under application reports again. Your category is reimbursement claim, and this one's going to be student reimbursement funds D, E, and F regular term. So that's the one that you would run for the claim that is due June 14th with corrections through July 31st. Okay, I have a couple questions. All right, if you have orphans, it doesn't matter if they're E or F, and you go in and put end dates for them in May, it's automatically going to create an error because we don't have the May file yet. So we can't assume that they're approved through May. We just got the April file yesterday. So anytime again that when you put an end date on, it's going to again give that error because we don't know yet that they're eligible May 1st through your end date. So that's what caused the error. That's why it wasn't there before and it is there now. So odds are that in June, when we get the May file, that error would drop off if the child's still eligible. We just don't know yet. So there's nothing wrong with what you did, but that's why it's there. And since it's a May record, it will be probably the 3rd week of June before we can eliminate that. But remember, you'll still be in the correction period for approval, so you're okay as long as it exists. Okay, so this next question is based just on what I just said. So if you are waiting on the May DCFS file for any reason at all, we will not get that till at least June 20th. But again, as long as the record exists on the 14th, you're good, because we have corrections through July 1st on approvals. And that's one of the reasons why, because we can't get the file in time. Okay. The question on the TD school, you'll have to call in for that one or send an email. That will be a little more complicated. I would have to look at that first before I could answer. I have an orphan that was adopted on Monday the 20th. Should I just leave him as Fund E through the end of the school year? More than likely, you're going to need to end that the day they were adopted and change it to a Fund A, because the May file is not going to show that child as being eligible. So if they were adopted on the 20th, that's the end date I would use and do an end add, and the new record will be Fund A through the rest of the school year. Okay. But I guess on that adoption, you could try, what I would do first on the end add is I would try first to do, well, was the adoption in May or April? Okay, May 20th, I'm sorry. Since it was May 20th, I don't know if they're going to be on the May file as eligible or not. So right now, I just wouldn't do anything yet. And let's see what it looks like when the May file comes in June, and then we'll decide what to do. If they're on the file as eligible all through May, that would be great. But if they fall off the file, then we're waiting on ISB to let us know for sure if we can give you partial time. So we're trying to get some guidance documents on this with some hard and fast rules and best practices on how we want to handle these, because the file goes by the month. But you may be able to tell us, well, they didn't get adopted till the 20th, so technically they were an orphan until the 19th. So again, we're awaiting an answer from ISB on whether or not we could count 19 days as an E, or if we cannot count the entire month as an E. So right now I would just leave it and then touch base with me in June. And again, usually it is June, it is the 20th, anywhere from the 20th to the 25th when we get that file. But lately it's been the 20th or the 21st. So we're hoping that that trend will continue. So hopefully June 20th, 21st, we'll have the file. Okay, I don't see any more questions. So if you think of anything, just give us a call or send us an email. We'll be happy to help. We have more trainings coming up, so be sure that you are registering for any of those that apply to you. And I will see you guys at the next session. Thank you. Have a good day.